I suppose you're all sat here today wondering, why is this person coming up going to teach us about disability? What on earth can I share with you that you don't already know? So I'm here today to challenge your assumptions. What you may think of disability today, I'm hoping by the end of this talk will change. I'm going to share a personal story with you all. I'm going to take you back to the 80s. I was an 80s child. My mum always said I had ants in my pants, couldn't stop moving. Always playing sports, always out on my bike, always running around, always climbing through streams, always playing football. Started football at the age of 9 or 10. I played football right up until my 20s, at the same time as taking on taekwondo, gaining my second dan black belt at the same time as playing football. Sport has always been a massive part of my life. It took me to the States, where I earned a full scholarship to play football at West Virginia. I went on to play semi-professional football for New Jersey Wildcats. I had to come home. I sustained an injury to my ankle. I came back, had surgery. I started playing for Clevedon Town Ladies Football Club and went on to play for Bristol Academy, a semi-professional team at the time. So I've always had a real passion for sports and for being active. I didn't go back to playing football. I thought, I'm going to try something different. I started kickboxing, much to the shock of my family. Why would you want to get punched and kicked in the face every day? But it was sport. I loved it. But a problem happened when I was training with my kickboxing. I used to get up in the mornings, and my back used to be so painful. I couldn't get up some days. We'd go training, and I couldn't do sit-ups. And I went to the doctors, and he'd always tell me, Karen, you're doing too much. You need to rest. But every time I exercised, I always felt better for it. I always felt good. My body felt loose. So for years, I was to and fro into the hospital, to the doctors. And then finally, the doctor succumbed and sent me for an MRI scan. The MRI scan picked up ankylosing spondylitis straight away. That was the start of my journey. It didn't stop me from playing sports. It stopped me from being active. But it certainly gave me some answers as to how I was feeling the way I was feeling. Following my ankle injury in the States, when I came back, I had several surgeries on my ankles and feet. I've lost count how many I've had on my legs altogether. The last surgery I had, for some reason, it didn't heal. It stayed swollen and red for months and months and months. They couldn't explain it. Went to the hospital down at the Heath, saw a neurosurgeon, straight away diagnosed me with CRPS, which is a nerve condition. After many, many treatments, it was decided I was going to be fitted with a spinal cord stimulator. Great, fantastic. Worked wonders for months. Didn't have any pain whatsoever. I was back to sport, back to running, back to going to the gym, took up bodybuilding. Cycled to work every day, 13 miles and back, on top of going to the gym. I felt amazing. And then the stimulator moved in my back. And I was like, oh, geez, here goes. Went back to the doctor. Right, come on, Cal, we get you back in. It'll only be a day surgery. You'll be in and out. And then you'll be back to normal. Well, that day surgery turned into 14 months in hospital. For over a year, I spent on my back in a hospital bed, recovering from a surgery that was supposed to have fixed the problem I had, but instead exacerbated it. I laid in a hospital bed for over a year with swollen legs, couldn't work, couldn't do anything. Just stuck in a hospital bed for over a year. I had to come out of hospital at some point. I was having physio every single day. I was seeing a psychologist twice a week to help me deal with the grief of the life I'd lost. But then COVID hit. And they're like, Kai, you've got to get out of hospital. You're going to catch it. You've got to get out. It's too dangerous. My relationship had broken while I was in the hospital. But that was okay. I had a supportive family. My mum said, come and stay with me. So for the whole of lockdown, I stayed up in my mum's house. I lived in a living room. I had my bed on a sofa. And we were fine, we were quite happy. My daily walk, my daily push was going outside and pushing myself up and down the hill 10 times. And that kept me fit. But then it got to a point when I started to get a bit depressed. I was being stuck in the house all the time. I needed a purpose. And I said to my mum, guess what? I'm going to study for my master's degree. As supportive as she always is, in that little living room, she found a space at her dining table, pushed some stuff aside, put my laptop up, I studied for my master's degree. Sports coaching. I was like, how on earth am I going to get a sports coaching master's? And I can't even walk. But I did it. And I used that as an opportunity to focus my studies on disability and how barriers to disability sport. And what can I do and what can I learn and share with the world? So although I went through all this, I kind of found my purpose. I thought, you know what, this isn't the end. This might just be the start of something. Studied my master's degree, passed that. I was like, right, what do I do now? Oh, right, okay. I'm quite interested in sports coaching in kids, so maybe I should do something within education. And I was like, right, couldn't decide what, so I'm going to become a teacher. Right, okay, PGCE time, let's become a teacher. I did that. And it was during that time is when I felt that I experienced the most barriers within my education. And I'm going to share with you some of the things I've learned today during this talk. So what am I doing now? Somehow I've stumbled upon a career as a senior research assistant at Cardiff Metropolitan University, and I'm also studying my professional doctorate. Now, I'm not an academic person whatsoever. I only went to uni back in the late 90s because I wanted to play football every Wednesday. I didn't want to study. I was like, I just wanted to get through it. But somehow, I'm studying my doctorate at the moment. I'm halfway through, and I feel like I've found a calling now. My calling is to help children with disabilities. Okay? So I'm standing here today as somebody with an invisible disability. I've got a spinal cord stimulator fitted, got a battery in my hip, an implant in my back, helps me walk around every day. I still have problems, but they're all invisible to you guys. It's just what I feel. I still feel pain, you just don't see it. I still have difficulties walking sometimes. I still stumble a little bit, but it's okay. I'm better than what I was. So I'm going to share with you some of my research today. So the medical model, developed in the 1950s, the medical model of disability tries to teach us that disability is all about a diagnosis, about an impairment. A person is disabled by the condition they have. The onus is on that person. You're disabled because of this. The social model. Mark Oliver, 1983, coined this model, the social model of disability. It was actually developed by a group of disabled academics in the 1970s. And they argued, well, actually, our conditions do not disable us, but it's our environment, it's society. The social model, however, fails to acknowledge the medical conditions of the individual. I can come in here today and we've got level access, we've got a ramp at the back. There might be people in here today that came in, had no problems at all. But does that rid the person of their impairment, of the pain they must feel? No, it doesn't. So I'm here today to propose that we need to consider both of the models. One isn't better than the other. Intersectionality, Kimberly Crenshaw's intersectionality theory. Different identities cross over and interlink. Okay, the social model, 1983, and we're still using that today in our schools and within policy. You go to hospitals, schools, we go to any government buildings or organisations, and they use a social model of disability in order to address, like maybe some barriers or to provide support to the individuals. Our country was very different in 1983. We're a more diverse nation. We got people from different cultural backgrounds, different races, different ethnicities, different genders, different sexual identities. All these things we need to consider. I have developed the DECA diverse model of disability. It's a holistic model that puts the person at the centre and considers everything about that person. It looks very busy, doesn't it? Now this diagram is just a fraction of what I can come up with. These are the main areas. So for the people in the room who find it difficult or who can't see this model, there are 4 areas in this model, all colour-coded. We look at culture as one. That includes language, religion, social status, ethnicity, family. We've got the medical needs in green. We've got the personal factors at the bottom in blue. And on the left, we've got the law in red. All of these factors we need to consider if we're going to support the disabled person or the person with the disability. And if you know, I put person with the disability second. The person is always first, not the disability. So how does this work in schools? So this model, we can use this in society everywhere. We can use it in our workplace, we can use it in hospitals, we can use it in technology, business, management, everything. But today I'm here to talk to you about how we can use this within schools and how to support our kids in our schools. If I break this down, so culture, do we understand the cultural beliefs of the children that we're working with? If a child has a disability, and they're from a different cultural background than you, what stigmas are they coming from? What stigma does your school have? How do other kids in your school approach children with disabilities? What is their culture? What do they believe? Do they have any language barriers? We live in a country where we've got refugees. We've got Ukrainian people from Ukraine who come in from war. Now, you can't tell me that all of these learners coming into our schools don't have disabilities. How are we supporting these families? If English is their second language, how are we communicating the needs of our children with the parents? And this is not just for teachers, this is for all of you guys who might have children with disabilities or impairments in your families, or even in your neighbourhoods. It's all for something that you need to consider. The law. The Equality Act tells us that every child in this country is entitled to a meaningful and accessible education. What does that mean? We think of access, we think of a ramp, that's all right. Got a ramp in the school, that's all right. Got a lift, you can go upstairs, not a problem. But access is not just physical, it's access to opportunities. When we consider the different intersecting factors of somebody's life, don't all the children in our schools have equal access? At the school I work at, many children with disabilities get taxis to school and home. If those children's families do not have a car at home, how do they get back from an after-school club when the taxis are contracted? They can't attend. Whereas the families who do have a car, they can collect them at after-school clubs. Are we considering this? So when I'm talking about an accessible, an equal and meaningful educational experience for our learners in our schools, are we truly providing this? Medical needs. Myself, I came across my condition later in life. If I was born with it, maybe I would have approached it differently. I had the trauma of being told, you're never going to walk again, Kat. I had a psychologist come into the hospital twice a week to talk to me, to try and get over it. Kat, you're not going to walk again. What are you going to do? How are you going to deal with it? How are our children coping with news like this? I struggled. I was a mature student. I returned to university. I'm now doing my doctorate. I'm still struggling with certain things within education as a mature student. How are our children feeling? Do they have trauma related to their conditions? These are all things we need to be asking as teachers, as parents, as club organisers, as sports coaches. All of these things we need to consider. Disability is not just somebody who might be using a wheelchair or has got a diagnosis, or you look at them and you can see an obvious impairment. Disability is much bigger than that. Personal factors. Now, this one I feel is one of the most important things we need to consider. Now, when I was doing my master's degree and my teacher training, I was taught a lot about disability, but there's no real practical application to that. I was taught what the medical and social model was, but I was like, well, how does that translate into teaching practice? So what specific barriers do my learners face in accessing education? Embodiment, belongingness, financial status. We spoke about that earlier. Financial status of the families. Gender identity, sexual identity, race, marital status of the families. Are they coming from a single parent household? Are they coming from two parents? Are they in care? We just don't know. We need to ask these questions. Especially in secondary schools where we don't have a more closer relationship than you may do if you're in primary school, when you're with the children every day. You might only be with the children 1 or 2 hours a week. We need to know these things. Embodiment. How does the child feel that they've got a disability? Children these days, they're stressed out. They've got GCSEs. They've got to learn English, science, maths. They've got to learn all these different subjects, languages. On top of that, they've got to deal with the fact that they're different. They've got a disability. They might be from a different country. Their race might be different. How are they coping having more than one marginalised identity? Disability. They could be black. They could be from a different country. All these different marginalised identities. Do they combine to further marginalise that child? I don't know. I can't answer that. Every child is different. But that's something we need to consider when we're planning our lessons and including children within our schools. So what does it look like? I've given you questions, and I'm giving you what this might look like now in our schools. So Alex is a 14-year-old non-binary student with ADHD and dyslexia from a low-income family. We found out he struggles with his reading, focus and social acceptance, but he's good at creativity and problem solving. Now, the diagram underneath are all the things that we can do as teachers and educators to support this child. We can promote gender diversity education to all the children. We can use gender-neutral language. Okay, we can provide technology to help the child. What if the child needs technology to communicate, but also the families? Do we know the level of ability or level of communication that the parents are capable of? If the parent comes from a country and English is their second language, are they able to read school reports? How can they help their child excel in education? It's something to consider. But by getting these answers, we can achieve the following outcomes. Alex now improves. He gains confidence. He's got an LGBT club. And they respect their gender and disability and the financial limitations of that family. The next one, May, a 16-year-old black girl diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and anxiety. She faces challenges in communication and social interaction. By asking these questions to ourselves, we can now offer Maya speech therapy. That improves her social skills. The books she reads, we give her options to choose black authors. Within PE, we use black athletes as examples of success within sports. All these things that can help the learner's outcomes. Maya now improves in social skills, and she feels very responsive in a culturally responsive environment. Okay? The diverse model of disability effectively addresses all these intersections. So, going back to the first question I asked you when I came up here, and I said to you, do you know me? Do you know the child in front of you? Do you know the learner in front of you? So all I'm asking you today is when you go away, challenge your assumptions about disability. It's not just the diagnosis or the impairment that causes the disability, but the combination of intersecting identities, all these different factors that constantly change, year by year, day by day, week by week. They're always changing constantly every single time. So that's just what I ask you to do when you leave today, challenge your assumptions. Thank you very much.